active shooter.
Hands up! Follow the line out there. All right, come on, let's go.
Keep going. Run out that way. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Run out that way. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Hands up. Hands up.
Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? Hands up. Hands up. Did you see or hear anything? No? Okay. Did y'all see or hear anybody? Okay. Anything? Did anybody hear or see any gunshots? Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Thank you. Tonight, officials have not said anything about motive, but they are investigating a letter that they think the suspect wrote before the attack. And while the FBI is not saying today's shooting is a hate crime, El Paso police believe that it may be.
Right now we have a manifesto from this individual that indicates to some degree it has a nexus to potential hate crime.
Yeah, and David, you know, the shooter said he spent about a month preparing for this attack. That is according to that letter he wrote. And tonight, you know, it's investigators from across the state and even across the country are taking a closer look at this 4-page typed letter they think the shooter wrote, explaining why he opened fire, killing those innocent shoppers. In the letter, the shooter describes himself as a white nationalist, a right-wing extremist consumed by conspiracy theories. In short, he thinks that white people are being replaced by immigrants in this country. The letter states this attack is in response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. They are the instigators, he wrote, not me. I'm simply defending my country from cultural and ethnic replacement brought on by an invasion. He blames Democrats and Republicans, David, and corporate America as well. He even writes about the destruction of the environment going on. He says, most of y'all are just too stubborn to change your lifestyle. So the next logical step is to decrease the number of people in America who are using resources. If we can get rid of enough people, he wrote, then our way of life can become more sustainable. And finally, a personal moment here. The letter says that he hoped he would not survive the mass shooting. Capture in this case is far worse than dying during the shooting, he says, because I'll get the death penalty anyway. Worse still is that I would live knowing that my family despises me. So tonight the big question is, where is his family? Where are his friends? If he had been preparing for this for the last month, no one saw anything, no one suspected anything, and no one said anything. Clearly, those are questions that federal agents tonight are trying to answer, David.
I'm tired of waiting and waiting and waiting, and I just want to know where my mom is.
Normal day for someone to leisurely go shopping turned into one of the most deadly days in the history of Texas.
El Paso, where the city where the attack took place, is located on the border with Mexico. It is an entry point for many migrants crossing the border into the U.S. The authorities are looking closely at what appears to be the suspected shooter's manifesto published right before the attack, and in it, the author blames the government for what he calls the migration crisis gripping the U.S. Caleb Moppin now reports.
Reports that are not yet confirmed have identified the shooter as 21-year-old Patrick Crusius. Now, a manifesto is circulating on the internet, reportedly being the manifesto of Mr. Crusius, and it cites immigration and hostility and racism toward migrants and immigrants as being his primary motivation. Now, the manifesto lays out both personal and political motivations for this mass killing, this act of terrorism, and explains what kind of weapons were used. He goes into detail describing the rifle that he used to open fire at the Walmart. Walmart. Now, the shooter blames both Democrats and Republicans for the inflow of immigrants into the United States, saying that, quote, the United States is rotting from the inside out. Furthermore, he says that at least with Republicans, immigration can be reduced, though he's highly critical of Republican policies. He expresses anger that, quote, Hispanics will take control of the local and federal government. And in his manifesto, he goes on a great tirade of racism, blaming immigrants for the problems facing U.S. society. And he says that he selected the site in El Paso, Texas, near the U.S.-Mexico border in western Texas, because it is a primary hub for immigration into the United States from South and Central America. And the shooter seems to have been primarily motivated by hatred for immigrants, and he has echoed the manifesto of the shooter in New Zealand who targeted a mosque.
This is one of New Zealand's darkest days.
Now, the local police have detained and arrested an individual who is the suspected shooter.
Hands up, hands up! Follow the line out there.
Eyewitnesses say that the shooting began outside the store, and the shooter then proceeded to go into the store and continue shooting. Now, the weapon identified is said to be a rifle. This mall area has been evacuated. It's a very large area, and there were quite a few people there, but it has been cleared. In addition, we understand that U.S. President Donald Trump and the White House are also taking action. We saw on Twitter U.S. President Trump confirming that he had spoken to both the U.S. Attorney General Barr as well as Texas Governor Abbott about the situation.
Caleb Moppin there. Well, US politicians are already pointing the finger at Trump, with a 2020 hopeful from El Paso calling the president a racist. Beto O'Rourke said that Trump incites hatred that leads to violence, with the massacre in Texas being a case in point.
A deadly mass shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. The numbers are staggering. At least 20 dead, more than 24 injured. The suspected gunman is in custody, identified as 19-year-old Patrick Crusius. He allegedly showed up at the Walmart armed and with a grudge, detailed in a manifesto he reportedly wrote and posted on an extremist website. Witnesses say the gunman shot randomly and repeatedly. Janet Shamlian begins our coverage tonight.
These surveillance pictures show the alleged shooter moments before the attack at the Walmart Supercenter. El Paso Police Sergeant Robert Gomez says they have one person in custody.
We believe he is the sole shooter. The person that was taken into custody without incident, and no law enforcement personnel fired their weapons.
The shooting started just before 11 a.m. Mountain Time.
And I wasn't really paying attention, but I heard do, 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 and then it went do, 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 like closer together. I told him there's a shooter, and we took off running towards the back of the store.
A massive emergency response was sent to the busy mall area on the city's east side, just off Interstate 10. The FBI and ATF are on the ground helping El Paso police. The Walmart is part of a large shopping area, sharing a parking lot with the Cielo Vista Mall, which has more than 140 stores. Shoppers running for cover as word of the shooting spread.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
On a day that would have been a normal day for someone to leisurely go shopping, turned into one of the most deadly days in the history of Texas.
Presidential candidate and El Paso native Beto O'Rourke says he's canceling events and heading home.
I'm incredibly saddened, and it is very hard to think about this. But I'll tell you, El Paso is the strongest place in the world.
Tonight, President Trump has been briefed. The White House says it's monitoring the situation, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott has already arrived in El Paso. He is meeting with law enforcement. Jerika?
Thank you, Janet. And police are saying there were as many as 3,000 people at this Walmart.
Yeah, this is tax-free weekend in Texas. It's designed to help families cut the cost of back-to-school expenses. So all the stores, including this Walmart, were just packed today. And also, Jerika, you are likely to find many more children in the stores today.
Wow. Thoughts and prayers going out to that community tonight. Janet Shamlian, thank you.